It's because it's to go early, right? All right, Abby, you're good to go.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting, this special meeting of the Coos Bay School District School Board to session. First on our agenda, I believe, is the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'm having some technical difficulties here. I'm having to join you by my phone right now. So I don't have an agenda in front of me. I'm going to assume that we need to accept the agenda for this evening. So do I have a motion?
I'll move we approve the agenda for tonight.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
I'll second, Kevin.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion or objection? Hearing none, the agenda is accepted. I'm going to jump right in here and guess that I can turn this meeting over to our superintendent to start the data portion.
Yes, thank you very much. So tonight you're going to hear data from each one of our buildings. And there's going to be lots of glows in there. There's also going to be some grows. I will say that while you will not be receiving state testing data tonight, because that comes out officially in the fall, we are seeing some scores in some of our buildings that are the highest that they've been so far, not final, but so far, since well before COVID, and going back and looking at historical data. So I'm pretty excited about what is on the forefront for the fall. We are going to start tonight. Mr. Ardall thought the meeting was at 6, so he has to go first because he has something else he needs to attend, but he's pulling in the parking lot right now. So I'm going to see if Dr. Crook, who's scheduled to go second, would slide on over to the first chair.
Sure.
And then you can tell Mr. Ardall that he owes you coffee.
Sounds great. And I'm going to go quickly through this because you guys heard from me for like an hour last. I'm on alternative ed. So.
All right, well, I thought I had it off stage. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, the later deal, and I don't have the picture of graduates.
Huh?
I don't have a picture of your graduates, so that's very nice.
Yes, we haven't seen the pictures come through yet, so check on those.
You're going to get to use this.
Okay.
Go get the clicker.
Awesome.
You can just rest on that one. You should click through.
Okay, so tonight I'm just going to be presenting on destinations data and our online data. Carly's going to go over Little Pirates when she comes up. So first off, destinations, we had 3 strategic goals. The first one was to increase our graduation rate and keep it at around above 80%. And we were doing that through attendance, behavior, course completion, specifically working on course completion checks, targeted interventions, whatever the kids needed to get where they needed to go. And then our academic supports for grades 9 through 11, we had a goal for each of those, an average of 3.5 credits over the course of a semester, which would give them 7 at the end of the term or the end of the year, and kind of get them going or get them on track and that kind of thing. Most of the students made more growth than that for the most part. And then we did that through our individualized student success plans. For attendance, we set a goal of 60% of our students maintaining an attendance rate of 70% or higher. So those were the things that we were working on this year. Happy to report that our predicted graduation rate for destinations, we predicted it's going to be above 90%. We had one student that we looked at our cohort data that did not achieve graduation. And so we're looking pretty good there. We won't have official data for that until January of next year. We'll get some preliminary in the fall, but that's what we're looking at there. Kind of small on, oops, kind of small.
Sorry.
Average credits earned by grade. Our 9th grade student here, that was one kid right here. The 7 is later on in the year. So our goal was 3.5, here in 4.5, and then you could see the 9th graders when we had them come in semester 2, we're meeting at that rate. 10th grade, 10th grade was a struggle. It was a big struggle for attendance and for the students getting credits. And then our 11th graders stayed pretty steady at 4 apiece as we move through. So this is all just averages based on the number of students. So we were pretty happy with that overall. We have some work to do with some of our 10th graders, obviously. And then our student attendance, we had 54% of our students maintain an attendance rate of 70% or higher. So we didn't quite meet our goal of 60%. They were pretty standard, 90 or higher, we had 18%, 80 to 89.9 was 18, 70 to 70.9, 18, and then below that 69.9. This was, the majority of these students were our upperclassmen who, if you, yeah. I mean, 10th grade was pretty rough too, but our seniors need some motivation to come to school sometimes. But our 10th graders were lower than the 12th graders, as you can see here. Those 7 kids were really struggling with getting to school. So overall, you know, our 11th grade class, they're a pretty unique group of kids. They requested summer school so that they were on track next year. So we have a whole group of 11th graders that are started today and are working on making sure that they are ready for their senior year. And a pretty unique group of kids. So I'm pretty proud of them. For Coos Bay Online, high school completion rate, we set a goal of a 90% average across the 2 semesters. And then another area of a goal for goals was credit attainment through relationship-centered check-ins with our mentor teacher. So really trying to build the capacity in a mentorship relationship was really important because we were missing that previous for our online kids. So somebody that they had here at the school district that they could check in with for upper grade levels. Our lower grade levels had that with Laura Post for several years, and it's been effective. And then our K-8 achievement, we implemented a new online curriculum. And so testing that out, piloting, seeing how parents and families reacted to it, and seeing how kids liked it and whether or not it was successful. So what we found for Marshfield Online, so this is 9th through 12th grade, they had about an 89% completion rate, so we were just under that 90% goal. At the end of the year, we had 184 students enrolled in grades 9 through 12 in 1 or more online classes. through our programs.
Is this the first year of this program,
Which one?
the online?
No,
So how many kids last year, approximately?
I would have to get that from my last slide.
That seems higher than
It is higher.
Okay.
It is higher. We're finding a lot of kids like some flexibility in their schedules, and there's some classes online that they're able to take that maybe aren't offered. So, let's see. For K-8 online, we started our Acellus program. We had an 88% passing rate there. The students that did not pass were mostly in the middle school level. And so we're working on some solutions on how to support our middle school students better. That's been an issue the last 4 years with our online program is, that 6th through 8th grade level, how do we support them even more? And the families really enjoy Acellus. They liked the new program. We are seeing that we're better able to support the students. We're better able to have family communication that goes directly. The families can log in. They have their own dashboard. They can look and see what their students are completing. And so that's been a huge positive. We have a lot of work to do around the pacing, what interventions are needed, those kinds of things as you're introducing a new curriculum, but those are goals for next year. And we ended the year with 76 students K-8 that were accessing some kind of online education. That did not include the students that were utilizing the program within the school setting though, because we do have students that are doing that as well, and has been successful for some of our kids. So next year, at Destinations, we want to, we're going to keep that 60% at 70% or higher. We need to really hit the attendance hard and figure out some additional ways to get kids to school, and really focusing on that 11th grade class and the students that we've now built a really good relationship with, and so how do we support them in getting them to school? Graduation rate, I'm just going to up it to 90%. It's been sitting around 80% as our goal for the last few years. So we're going to just up it and see how that goes, and making sure that we're including that summer school, right? Summer school is huge for these kids that really desire to have something to keep them connected to school and get ahead. And then for CBD9 online, we want to surpass that 90% completion rate and passing rate for K-8 and Marshfield Online. And then we want to scale up mentor-led check-ins so that we have the consistent adult support across the board with our online programs. And questions?
For the online programs, do we see any trends or patterns of what the most popular courses are at the different grade levels?
For the high school, it's really cores and AP courses. That's what most of the students.
People are taking actually like English and math and those types of things online as opposed to taking
in person. The electives are not as well loved as the cores. We have a lot of students that take Spanish online or another foreign language that we don't offer. We have ASL online. At the elementary level, that is a course that some of our students are liking, is an elementary ASL class. I think the robotics class, right? At Madison, you have a few kids that really love that class, and we have some little robots that they can use to try to program them and that kind of thing. But overall, the families for our K-8, overwhelmingly, they're like, don't put us in another program. We like this one. So
in all of these programs, is there a feeling that there is an adult, a caring adult engaged who knows every one of the kids?
I think for our K-6 students, that's true.
Okay.
I think our high school, this is the first year that we've had a teacher attached to the courses and having a mentor person in there. And he has done a really good job connecting with a lot of the students. But with 186 kids that you're monitoring, that fluctuates as well. That can be difficult, but I do think Laura Post, because she has a smaller caseload, has been able to interact with the families more and interact with the kids more. There's opportunities, whether or not students at the upper grades take the opportunities to meet is a whole other problem to be solved.
Okay.
Yes.
Remember correctly from the budget that we were adding the additional online teacher?
Yeah.
So that caseload for the high school will drop.
Hopefully.
Should.
Yes. We're looking at who applies and their strengths, and then we'll go from there to figure out who's taking which caseload.
Kim, did you have any questions?
I did. What was the size of the K through 8 cohort there?
I think it was 76 at the end of the school year.
Okay. And how many teachers for that one?
One for K6. And
Okay.
then Drew is the teacher for 7-12.
Okay. All
I
right.
split the data that way because one group uses SLS and one group uses Edgenuity.
I have a quick question about this little blurb that we're getting in at 10th grade. Was that unusual? Is 10th grade normally an area where, it's like the 7-year itch or something?
For destinations. So it's kind of usual. My school tends to attract 11th and 12th graders more so than 10th. You saw the numbers, like I started with one freshman for the first semester, and then it ballooned up to 7 freshmen at the semester 2. And then for 10th grade, we've kind of stayed consistent at 7 to 10 over the course of the year. And they're still, I think that at 10th grade, they're still trying to figure out who they want to be in high school and figuring out what school really means if they've not really attended in the past. And just like, I don't know, that group of kids is figuring themselves out, is what I can say. So they're working on it, and we're trying to help them through it. But yeah, I think that we tend to see that 10th grade about their sophomore year, in my experience. 13 years of being at the high school. About semester 2 of their sophomore year, they start figuring things out a little bit better. For sure.
Okay.
I mean, that's not a scientifically proven anything, but that's just what my experience has shown.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a comment.
Maddie?
I just feel like you've just knocked this out of the park. This has grown so quickly, and it feels so like you have been really insightful about seeing the ideas that you have for how to make things better. And, the way you present the data makes so much sense, and thank you for that. And I love that you use this concept of change ideas. I think I said it last time you used it, but it really actually makes it all seem very achievable, and it demonstrates how you can try something and see how it works and not get hung up in, I don't know. There's just something about the way that you frame how you make change that to me is really appealing and positive. And I really appreciate that. And I like how you have a strategy for your goals, and it's just one thing, which is great, because there's a lot. So I just really, I just think you've knocked this out of the park with this.
Thank you.
And you've just really taken it and done so much in so many different areas in such a complicated new thing. I mean, it's not new, but it is new, really. And so I'm really impressed by that. And I did have a question, and I don't want anyone to get mad at me for it, but do you think, I know that attendance is super, super important. Are there 12th graders, maybe, I don't know about 11th graders, who had they attended more, it wouldn't have made a difference? Or do you kind of feel like they all should have attended more? And they would have probably done better had they attended more, because they haven't figured out yet
I think,
remote work.
yes. So with my destination students, I think that if they had attended more, we could have built closer relationships with them. We had pretty close relationships with most of our students. And I also think they would have taken their grades a little bit more seriously, instead of stopping at a point where they're like, well, I'm passing, so that's good enough.
Track how many of them work?
Most of my students work, yes. So, most of them get work experience credit at, I think almost all of them had red cords at graduation, which were their work experience. So.
It might be interesting to see how many hours they're spending working and what that
A lot.
balance. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And, but I couldn't have done any of that without my teams. So I just, it's not just me. It was a team effort of building our alternative programs and making sure kids are getting what they need. So.
Thank you, Dr. Crooks. Mr. Arnold, Marshall Junior High.
Trade you out here, sorry. Thanks for letting me come by and give you a little snapshot of Marshall Junior High this year. Oops. All right. Forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
What was happening? No. So tonight's topics, like you probably already know, give you a snapshot on junior high through goals, attendance, passing rate, some math, our high school enrollment, behavior, extracurricular involvement, and other highlights. I think starting this year, first year as principal there, I think I was a little lofty with the goals. I learned that after the middle of the year pretty quickly. I think we ended up being about where Marshall Junior High has been for a little while. I think the biggest highlight was science, which had a 9-point jump and hit the goal. That's pretty cool.
So the purple is your goal, and then the one below is actually what you meant. Is that right?
Yep.
Great.
Okay. So attendance, regular attender rate, and also the daily rate. So 7 students with 100%. We had 221 students that were regular attenders, 90+%. 127 were just below that, 80 to 89, and then we had 81 that were below that were chronically absent. Our daily rate was 89%, which was just below our goal of 90. Some things that we're gonna do next year, and there's more than this that I could share with, just, it's kind of a work in progress still, but some things we've already thought about is more attendance notifications, both positive and improvement needed every quarter. We also do a Friday drawing. We're gonna continue that. That's worked really well. And also some monthly rewards. And so also, the secondary schools, we're making a goal of having, a requirement of having students meet an 80% attendance requirement to be in activities. So whether to go to a dance or to participate in sports, that's one thing we're gonna change next year.
Of course it'll work.
You do it.
Okay, I'll go.
There we go. All right. So middle of the year this year, so now we're getting the grades, passing rate. I told you that our passing rate was at 75%. And since then it really went up. End of the year was at 87%, which is really good. Our goal is 90, but I'm glad that we really made sure improvement there, especially the 7th grade near the end. But kind of share the bad part with it too. So good rate, near the goal 90, but there's also areas of improvement. So our ELA and math were a little bit lower when you take the totals of their passing rate. So those are areas that we need to talk about with those teams starting next year. Going into math specifically, the 7th and 8th grade showed good improvement in their Savas end of the year scores. You can see it from beginning to middle to end. Up 47 in 7th grade, up 40 in 8th. We'll go into each one here. You got it? There we go, never mind. Okay, 7th grade, looking at the colors, they're going in the right direction. Blue's increasing, green's increasing, yellow's decreasing, and red is decreasing throughout the year. That's what we want. That was the same story in 8th grade. Go ahead. Yeah. Same story in 8th grade. Okay. And that was with our success maker, which is a part of Savas. It's an individualized instruction to fill the gaps for students. So our goal was for students, 38 weeks in the school year, for them to get about 35 hours in the year. We had an average of 19 hours in the year per student, which I'll tell you in a second, it makes a difference. So 7th grade growth was a 0.35 and 8th grade was 0.42. It's pretty good growth in success maker this level. It could have been better, but it's pretty good growth. But just looking at breaking down
Is 1.0 a year.
Is a year's growth, yes. Yep. Breaking down a little further though, students that reach at least 25 hours for the year, we're getting a 0.6. So those minutes really do matter in success maker. And then of course the other side of that, less than 25 hours for the year, they were getting average growth of 0.3. Hit our goal with accuracy. Our goal is 60%, and we're getting 63 by the end of the year as an average. That's questions being correct.
Is the goal though? I mean, this is not the complete picture of their math growth for the year.
Yep.
Because we should be seeing we should be a lot closer to 1.0. If they're in it for a whole year, they should see 1 year growth, right?
Yep.
Okay. So it's just
This is not their 7th, 8th grade math. This is the individual gaps they're trying to fill.
individual gaps. Is there were you able to see any correlation between, for example, the students who had this 0.6, they spent 25 hours or more on success maker, are those students doing better on OSAS, or are we get a more complete assessment, sort of not this in isolation, but in attaching this to a more complete assessment? Are we seeing that success maker is making a difference on the complete assessment?
Mm-hmm. I'd have to look specifically for the students, but I would assume so, yes. But I could definitely look.
Okay.
Yeah. High school enrollment, we had 67 students who were taking 95 sections of classes that include algebra, geometry, probability and statistics, chemistry, band, jazz ensemble. welding, computers, and engineering.
Can I ask a quick question about pass rate? Is that, when you're talking about, is that students who are passing all of their classes, some of their classes, one of their classes, or is that based on the testing or?
That's based on classes.
Based on classes,
Yeah.
so those students are passing all of their classes, the pass rate?
So that's taking all the sections that are offered
Mhm.
and total sections with total S and doing that percentage.
So it's
So
not about
each-
individual students,
Yeah.
it's about the whole group.
So each kid would have, the second semester would have 7 of those grades in there.
I see.
Behavior incidents, the good thing about this data, I don't like any bad, behavior issues like this, but the good thing is is very educational for us. So I'll quickly look at this, the next one. This one shows by location, this shows by violation. And what we can take from all this is everything else is pretty small, and that tells us good information. Go back to the previous one. This one, we know where the behaviors are coming from, classroom. Go to the next one, please. And this one, we can break it down to 3 major behavior issues, which are disrespect, disruption, and skipping. That's where we're at right now. So, this year we did have a lot less of more serious issues, like whether it's illegal substances or fights, that kind of a thing. So it did come down with that considerably. So we do have behavior plans for next year. We're already meeting with the behavior team. We met with some teachers earlier this summer already. I met with Gary as well to go over kind of a revamp our plan a little bit. But some of what we will do is utilize the RTI process to assess our Tier 1 behavior interventions school-wide. We'll look at implementing a behavior academy at the Tier 2 level based on our data. And we'll look at implementing 3 teams and continue our site leadership, which we've already done, our department champs, as well as behavior teams for Tier 2 and Tier 3. And then we'll also, there's more, there's a long list of things. Some of the highlights I was picking up from this is we'll also do a book study with our teachers. Classroom Management That Works by Marzano, and also The First Days of School by Harry Long. And our goal, like it says there, is to help teachers improve their classroom management, building those skills, have more tools.
You did the majority of the behaviors are occurring in the classroom. Are there certain subjects or periods that are more problematic than others?
I don't think so. I think mostly it's time of the day. That's what sticks out to me more. It's more middle of the day. Sometimes before lunch, but mostly after lunch. So we can break it down by that, which is good too. And then some positive interventions. This year in our weekly awards, we were able to recognize 230 kids for things like attendance, 100%, for 60 minutes in Success Maker, for getting pretty high in Success Maker for accuracy, and for nominated by teachers effort and respect. And then we also were able to recognize 150 kids in our monthly character awards assemblies. And those are things like for respect, responsibility, gratitude, empathy, perseverance, honesty, cooperation, courage, and creativity. And to end the year assembly, we recognized 25 kids for things like their character, academic achievement, and also attendance. Our extracurricular participation, what we offer school-wide, we had 50% of our kids participate in school activities, which is really great. Earlier in the year, when we did the survey with kids, we saw that 81% of them were involved with something within and outside the school. I would think that would be about the same or more at the end of the year with all the spring sports and the other things I listed there. Oh, this one's hard to see. So, other highlights. Talking to our main core departments, I thought it'd be good to just tell you some other things happening in the classroom. So, science. So, scientific writing. This was mentioned by the science department. They mentioned the students are making progress in their ability to write using claim, evidence, and reasoning. 7th graders have progressed from answering questions in 2 to 3 words to writing full sentences using evidence from their labs, sims, and reading. New natural selection engineering project, 8th graders piloted a new Amplify platform in engineering and unit where they had to apply what they learned in natural selection and use science skills to design, test, and propose a treatment for malaria. This project required the accumulation of all the knowledge and skills they have been taught over their middle school science career: active reading, iterative testing, problem solving, scientific writing, and some others. And then the marine science class, students from both semesters were able to visit local sites to apply what they've learned. We completed a shark lesson and toured the Charleston Marine Life Center, as well as went tide pooling with the ranger at Sunset Beach. And they also mentioned the PLC planning, which that was the department that really improved this year. And they said our department was able to use our PLC time to plan engaging lessons, calibrate scoring, reflect on lessons. This allowed us to provide students in any science class with the same opportunities and experiences no matter which teacher they had. Our ELA department, they mentioned a field trip, but they also mentioned kind of the second sentence there. They went to the high school and had a lesson with the librarian, and this led to 85% of students improving their benchmark first semester test scores. Students also becoming very comfortable with using RACE to analyze text and writing. So RACE is that they'll have a piece of reading and they'll be able to, then they'll give a question on that reading, and they'll be able to restate the question, answer it, cite evidence, and also explain that. And that's kind of a strategy that all of our ELA teachers are using to analyze text. And we're using it quite a bit. In math, our MJHS team won the math counts competition. All advanced 7th grade students scored at or above grade level on the end of the year SAVIS diagnostic. Another big highlight, having 6th graders come over and join the advanced 7th grade class. And those students that did that are on track to take Algebra 1 as 7th graders. And our OGPC team won some awards at their competition as well. Social studies, they implemented DBQs, so diagram-based questions. They'll analyze a piece of text as well. It could be a primary source, and they'll be able to use similar stuff like RACE to analyze that text. It could be charts, it could be maps, whatever it is in that. They said 73% of students increased their beginning of the year to end of the year DBQ. Students improved analysis, decoding, and historical thinking skills. Students are more confidently and independently completing DBQs. The department also was able to have 4 students awarded by the mayor and a city council for the If I Were a Mayor contest. And then in PE, we had a high volume of participation and effort this year. Most students are responding well to organized and intentional instruction, consistency, and clear expectations. They particularly enjoyed our new units of bocce ball, 9 square, and the badminton and pickleball tournaments. We look forward to transitioning next year to our Buck Olympics, which is kind of like the presidential fitness test, and having tumbling and golf. And that's what we have right now. Moving forward, I didn't put a goals for next year in there yet. I don't know what those numbers are yet for what our goals will be. We're still busy looking at that, but I do know what the topics will be, and that'll be behavior, attendance, and math. We've got 3 areas to focus on next year.
I guess what I would say is that I would watch carefully on their implementation of whether they can participate in activities. Because the thing that we found at the high school, and I think even earlier in middle school, was that the more engaged a individual student lives with at least one adult at the mid school, the better they did at everything. And when you take out all of the kids' activities, they tend to go down. So you might want to watch that statistic to see if it's actually improving attendance, or if those kids that are engaged are improving, but the rest of the kids are just going down the tube. Non-involvement in middle school leads to non-involvement in high school, which makes it really hard to get through school. So I just encourage you to watch that statistic very carefully.
Yeah, thank you. That's one thing actually that we've already have going with some of our other goals is to, that's a part of like behavior and other things. So, yeah.
I was wondering about that too, because if requiring attendance in order to participate, especially if a child, is reliant on an adult to get to school, it's not really their fault they couldn't get there. Mm-hmm. And I hate to have them lose the opportunity to be able to participate in something else that they enjoy.
We'll work with parents as well. I mean, there's some understanding there in situations, definitely.
Yeah, and I really like, I like the way that you did the behavior incidents. I appreciate how this is really broken down. I really appreciate the detail. It's really helpful
It's good to know where, when,
to
and
see.
what's happening.
I'm wondering, what do students have to say, or do you ask them? What do the children have to say about behavior and school and what they think should be done or not done?
Well, that's a good question. You need to ask them.
I'm just curious what they might say.
Yeah.
About reward systems and the things that they really like and don't, I'm just curious about that. And what kind of leadership opportunities do they have?
Yeah, so we do have a leadership class, and that'll be 20 kids next year leading a lot of things around the school.
That's great.
I do know that when we didn't have certain awards, like maybe for some reason, we got in the end of the day and we forgot the weekly award, whatever, drawing, we would hear about it. So I think kids did
Yeah.
enjoy that stuff.
Well, that's good. That's good. I'm wondering if there's ways for them to be engaged in it too. So I don't know.
We also had our leadership kids do the announcements every morning.
Yeah.
So they got to get in front of everybody and do the announcements.
Right.
We also talked about surveying students next year.
Surveying students next year.
Surveying students. Thank you.
I have a question, and this is probably just my ignorance as a board member. And this is across the board with all the schools. We always talk about the intervention. I don't know what the exact interventions are. I know that we have these reading groups and math groups, but I see the different levels in this intervention. I would love to know exactly okay, these are the interventions for grade school, for junior high and high school. I would be very curious. I think I have an idea. And then are they effective? Are we actually moving the marker with the interventions, or are we just having the interventions to say that we have the interventions? And there's probably data there, and you guys probably are tracking that somewhere, but that would be my curiosity, because we can have all the interventions we want, but if they're not effective, then we'll just have it to say that we have it. And then my other just kind of question is the kiddos that are kind of struggling from the junior high, and then there's not a lot to say that something would change in the high school. Do you work closely with Eli when you have those kids that are probably struggling in junior high to kind of, I don't want to say behavior or just academically in the classroom, making sure that they are set up in the high school setting to hopefully change some habits or do something different, because it's hard to expect a kid from junior high that's not doing well to do well in high school when there's been no.
Yeah, there are some trends, you're right. Yeah, but we do work closely with Eli and Kayla as we help kids transition. Yeah.
And one, I can bring you some data on the interventions, and as you'll see, as we move up from K6 to 7-12, that's where we see the need for more interventions as we get into that 7-12 realm. And we're working on that with advisory next year and movement days and things like that to try to get some more support for students. Because we have some pretty robust systems, K6, that are producing solid results. And the second part of your question is about behaviors from junior high to high school. And one of the things we're noticing right now is it's about 74% of our junior high students have a class on Marshall's campus. Okay. So because they take an elective or something up at the high school, one of the survey courses. So we are seeing more and more students moving up for classes, and we're also seeing more and more of the need for staff and administrators to be on the same page in terms of expectations on both campuses, because they share so many kids. So.
Wanted to encourage you when you present this data next time to focus on a year of growth. So just to see that the blue gets bigger throughout the year, that's not the key thing that we need to see as a board. We need to see, are our students making appropriate growth? Because it's okay if you have a student who's below grade level and you get them a year's worth of growth, but I guess they're still going to be below grade level. But a year's worth of growth we should get every year. And so, the goal, we want to get more than a year's worth of growth if we ever can, but we should not be seeing, it highly concerns me that the only growth that numbers we saw in here were 0.3 and 0.4. And I know that's only part of it. It's a intervention thing, but that's less than half a year of growth for a student. And so I'd really like to see the follow-up of, if we're struggling in math, is it because we're only making 0.6 each year? In which case, we're not moving the needle enough each year.
Other questions?
I do have questions. This is Kim from the board online. I totally agree with Dr. Rogowski. I was going to say something about
Kim, you cut out.
and then some new ones provided. Oh, dang it. I'm having really hard internet. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, but you were cut out for quite a bit of that.
Okay. I was just agreeing with Dr. Rogowski about the data. Anyways, on slide 14, could you go back to slide 14?
Yes.
Okay. So I just have a question about the implement behavior academies at the tier 2 level based on behavior data. Could you walk me through that? What does that look like?
Shelley, you want to walk her through that? So it's brand new thing we're doing. So tier 1, we use just universal interventions with those kids, but when they get to a tier 2 level, we'll do something different. And so if a kid has an issue with something, I guess.
Well, I don't know if I can follow your thought, but here's what we were talking about there. We did something wrong this year. What we did is we thought we could implement behavior academies without considering how to get there. And so Gary very kindly shared 2 books with us. And one of them was about behavior academies, but the other one was about, what was the other title? What was it, Gary?
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay. Anyway, I should have read that book first, but I didn't. I read the Behavior Academies book first. And so we went sort of head first into the idea of implementing behavior academies, and then realized that, wait a minute, no. You have to do all of this work first. You have to do some research. You have to align. You have to really get your tier 1 interventions in place first, and then look at your tier 2 interventions and look at what those behavior academies would look like and base them on behavior data. We hadn't done any data. We were just looking at, okay, here's this student who can't seem to stay in class, who's getting kicked out all the time. We need to put him into an academy where he, isn't getting kicked out of class all the time. So here, let's have him talk to this person on staff and see if we can't get him in class more often. And so we did it sort of this reactionary way instead of a proactive way. And so then I finally got some time after the kids were gone at the end of the school year to look at the other book that Gary gave us, which I should have looked at first.
It's Behavior Solutions.
Thank you, Behavior Solutions.
Academic and social skills through RTI work.
Thank you. And shame on you for not telling me that I should have read that book. And so then I realized, and I talked to Kyle and I go, oh, we did this backwards. We totally did this in a reactionary way instead of a proactive way. And so that's what that's talking about. It's talking about looking at our kids who are sort of have some tier 2 needs based on the data. And then looking at which, and we have more staff who can support us this year, and how and what that will look like in the coming year. Does that make sense?
It's no.
Sorry.
I get what your intention is. I'm not sure that we don't have time tonight to probably go over
Probably not to delve into it deeply, yes.
Yeah, to look at what, I understand where you came from and like the intention behind it, but what does that look like going into the future of behavior academies? I would just like it linked all together to see, okay, here's the data, here's how the data links to what we're going to do to improve these numbers next year, and why we're doing it, and what it looks like. Sorry, my dog's freaking out. What it looks like. So that's what I would like to see in the future.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying, and I think what I'm saying too, is we have to be more intentional, and we weren't.
Any other questions for the junior high team?
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
I hope it helps.
Yes, it does.
Principal Ashton, are you ready?
Yes.
And I want to remind you, Principal Ashton, that you have 7 to 8 minutes to present your slides.
And I did much better this year. So if I don't have enough information, then I apologize.
All right. Time will tell.
Yeah, right.
Okay, you can share your screen when you're ready.
All right. Again, I apologize for not being there tonight. I am up in Wilsonville. Tomorrow I have a training for AVID with a couple of our AVID elective teachers. So I'm not excited for that. All right. Okay, so just a reminder of our KPIs, our key performance indicators, and our marathon sprint goals. And again, our KPIs are really a 5-year long-range goal. So attendance, regular attenders at 90%, our ACT proficiency at 70%, AP dual credit 50%, our CTE concentrators, which a concentrator, again, is a student who participates or earns 2 credits of a CTE program, and they must have taken at least 2 of the 3. So every CTE program has a minimum of a beginning, a middle, intermediate, and advanced course, and they've had to have completed 2 of those. Students enrolled in extracurriculars or co-curriculars at 70%, and our 5-year completion rate at 100%. And again, the reason we say 5-year completion rate, students that are on certificates of attendance do not count as graduates, unfortunately. We do have some of those, but a lot of those students are working towards a modified diploma, and they continue to come back to work on that. So that's why we're shooting for that 5-year. Our marathon sprint goals for this year, 70% regular attenders, and then 90% passing for our grade levels and our core subject areas. Core subjects are those ones. So each year, students take 4 core classes. Freshman year, it is math, science, ELA, and health. And then after that, it is math, science, ELA, and social studies. So 4 years of that. And then their senior year, they can take those if they want, but really science and math are done if they've done their job. Then our school improvement goals. So these were derived off of our accreditation process last year. So looking at really our state report card and some of the areas that we were deficient in, with our site council, we developed these 5 goals. So the first one was improved math achievement. So we wanted to increase it by 10% from this last year. Improve student attendance. Again, increases regular attenders, but also decrease our chronic absenteeism by 15%. Again, chronic absenteeism is students that miss more than 20% of the school year or more than 35 school days. Strengthen support for students with disabilities. Just again, students on an IEP or 504, supporting them, providing additional tutoring, or pushing in with some of our EAs into the more challenging core classes like science and social studies, which don't offer a modified course like math and ELA do, to help support those students. Increase testing participation. And again, like Mr. Roberts said, we're not going to present on the OSAS tonight, but I will tell you, based on our raw data, we went from 60% participation across the board last year to only 3 students opting out in ELA and math this year, and I believe it was 11 for science. So participation increased to 98, 97% in those 2. Again, it's raw data. We don't have the final results, but we know that almost all of our students showed up from the 11th grade class to take the test this year. So we're really excited about that. And then our improved graduation rate, again, from the previous year, up by 5%. All right, so attendance, first one. So looking at our regular attenders over the course of the last 4 years, and again, a regular attender is someone who attends 90% or more of the school year, which means that they can only miss less than 17 days. So, again, coming out of COVID has been a struggle, and we continue to struggle. We didn't make much of an improvement. We did not reach our goal of 70%. And it still has been a real stressor to figure out how we can solve this problem of getting students in classes all the time. This is kind of the course of the year. So you can look and see how we started off really well. September and October, we were hovering around that 70%. We know going into November, December, January, sicknesses are kind of come around and those attendances are going to drop, but we never recovered coming out of the winter months and into the spring. Well, actually, we continue to drop. And so even our seniors, as you can see, getting into June and May, they're below 50%. So that means less than 50% of our seniors attend regularly. Even with our expectation of 90% attendance to participate in the graduation ceremony, we did not prevent any students from walking a graduation this year. They all met the criteria as far as doing their community service hours to adjust for that, not making the 90%. I guess they would rather do the community service than just come to class. So again, we're not quite sure. We need to go back and revisit the drawing board on what we can do to get kids to show up more regularly and attend class. Positive, though, is our chronic absenteeism did decrease. And so you can see those numbers between our 9th and 12th grade from last year being the yellow with 23%. Again, for our freshmen, they dropped down to 16%. So even though our regular attenders didn't increase, we moved those kids from the chronically absent into, or severely chronically absent into the moderately chronically absent, which is at 80 to 90%. So we saw a lot of our kids that weren't really coming to school a lot. Some of those kids were probably around that 60 to 70 jump into that 80%, 80 to 90%. And a lot of that has to do, I think, with some of the, we did do some awards monthly during our class meetings for perfect attendance. It was a clean slate every month. Mr. Bolke did some attendance races where he put kids up on a board, and if they attended, there was a pot of money that was separated amongst the kids who were able to meet it over the course of a month. Actually, it was about a month and a half. They were given gift certificates. So just a little bit more competitiveness, maybe some intrinsic motivation, some extrinsic motivation as well. But, when we add a little bit of competitiveness to it, we saw some increases for some of the students. And I think that's what helps, again, maybe not jump our kids into the regular attenders, but at least improve their overall attendance by the end of the year. The next one is our passing rate. So again, 90% passing rate was our goal. For our grade levels, so if you look at the yellow is the 24-25 semester and semester 1 and 2, and the purple is semester 1 and 2 of this year. We started off kind of rough with a lot of our classes, but the nice thing is, again, we always see improvement in the second semester, which is always nice. So some of our kids, especially our freshmen, this year they struggled. 87% of them were passing at the end of the first semester, and that increased to 92%. So that was exciting to see that students found some success. And again, when we talk about passing rates, this isn't like the percentage of kids who've passed. This is the overall. So if you take all the grades that were entered into the grade book at the end of each semester, this is the number of passing grades, and they earned a credit. So they essentially earned a credit. If they got an F, that was basically why they didn't. Some might be a passing, like a P, and there's some of the modified students that have some different scores that were also getting passing grades. But ultimately, these are the number of students who earned some credit, which is the most important thing. We want kids to earn credits. Poor passing rate, and again, this is a little bit different because you'll see the orange, or the yellow and the purple in the first semester, second semester of the 2004-2005, and then the second set is the semester 1, semester 2 of this year. Again, most departments saw growth from first to second semester. The one area of concern this year, obviously, is science. You can see that first semester of this year was at 77%. We did adjust our pathway for science. This year, we moved environmental science, which has been historically a freshman or a junior level course, to a freshman. Part of that had to do with the AP environmental as being the least challenging of AP courses, because we thought freshmen would do a lot better with that, which they did. They did exceptionally well, but some of our general ed students struggled a little bit that first semester, but then showed a lot of growth second semester. So definitely a discussion that actually on Thursday, Mr. Hill, Mr. Montiel, and I are going to meet, discuss kind of what we're going to do for next year to help students be more successful that first semester. So here's just some overall data. Senior data, we had 171 graduates in the class of 2026. So 171 kids either got their diploma at the ceremony or chose not to participate and did it in other ways. We did have 2 students participate in the destinations graduations that were 100% online. We have 6 returning seniors for a 5th year potentially, and I say potentially because 4 of them are attending summer school. If they are able to earn the necessary credits, which a couple of them, it's just a couple classes, if they do that, then they will actually qualify as graduates for the 26 class, and they don't actually become 5th year seniors. And then we have 1 6th year senior who returned that still needs to finish a couple credits. They are also attending summer school, so we hope that they will able to get that and be considered a 5th year completer. For a freshman, we had 206 freshmen in the class of 2029. So 83% of them are currently on track, which means that they earned at least 6 credits this year. Last year, our rate was 83%, so we're right at where we were last year. Kind of a nice highlight is 80% of our SPED students are on track to graduate. Last year, we had 71%, so it was a nice growth of 9. We have 32 freshmen attending summer school. So again, like I said, if they finish those credits that they're deficient, they can actually jump into that on track. So we're hoping that we'll see a nice jump in that 83%. AP enrollment, it didn't change a lot from the middle of the year. Again, nice growth over the last few years as we've obviously added several classes. We had 234 students that were participating in an AP class this year. And then I included the 199 of the AP seminar offset. So if you combine those two, that's the number of students that were taking an AP course this year. Dual credit. So these are all the dual credit classes we have offered over the course of the last 2 years. Some we offered last year that we aren't currently offering, and that's due to the fact that we lost that instructor. So when we lost the instructor, we lost the course. But we did add a couple courses this year. AP Stats, which is also a dual credit, counts for Stats 243. We also added AP Chemistry, which is Chem 110. And though it said 0 from construction last year, that's just because we didn't have any kids earn it last year. This year we had 20, so it was a nice jump increase in that. And then everything else pretty much stayed the same. Excited that we are going to offer, we have Intro to Cultural Anthropology next year, which is a dual credit course. We have Math 105 and 108, which is pretty exciting because we will have pathways for all students at Marshfield High School to earn a college level math credit by the time they graduate, should they choose. So with Math 105 and 108, those are term courses that are going to be spread out over the course of a full year. And then in the spring term, that's when they will be enrolled at SWAC for that credit if they meet the minimum criteria to work on earning that credit. So hopefully, again, every student, whether they take the basic level pathway or they're taking the advanced track, will be able to earn a math college credit by the time they graduate. Overall, we had last year we had 359 students that were enrolled in a dual credit class, and this year we had 397. So still, again, pretty impressive with the increase in AP courses. All right, so discipline by grade level. Again, looking at our students over the course of these last couple of years. Our ninth graders, again, typically dominate our discipline, and working all the way down to our seniors typically don't receive a lot of referrals. So again, this year we had a substantial increase in overall referrals. I haven't been able to talk to Greg about kind of the details on that. He's been out for the last several weeks due to medical, but when he gets back, it's something that we'll discuss a little bit. And as you can see, when I transition to, I'll get into the kind of the specifics of it, but here's the one by gender. And again, mostly it's going to see as males. Males typically dominate discipline, where females kind of fall behind. And it's usually kind of a split between 2/3, 1/3. Here are top 5. And so the ones on the left, your minor skipping, major skipping, the non-defiance or non-compliance, defiance, disruption, those are our top 5 referrals over the last 2 years. Like I said, you can see a huge increase from this year. The purple is this year's. And again, you look at, so minor skipping is basically they went to class and then they ditched out maybe for like 20, 30 minutes, maybe never returned. Major skipping is where they just never showed up. So they were probably in first or second period and they somehow just disappeared for the rest of the day. And so those are kind of those increase in referrals there. The major defines, major disruption, minor disruption, those are, again, kind of subjective. And so it's hard to tell sometimes if it's more of just teachers wanting to document. It didn't result in one of the slides that I left out this year that I forgot to add was the number of students that were suspended. So our overall suspensions dropped from 85 to 57 this year, and out of school days dropped from 105 days to 70 days. So even though our increase in referrals went up, the number of severe or dispositions that resulted in students being absent from school decreased. So that was kind of nice to see. So it made a lot of these kind of turned into maybe like conversations or short detentions. The rest of the data that I wanted to share with you guys, as far as these are the kind of things that I think most people want to know about a school. Is it a safe school? And as you can see, we haven't seen a lot of increases in drug use, alcohol, vaping. In fact, even our vaping went down from 19 to from last year to 12 this year. Overall fights, 28. It did increase to 35 this year. But just looking back when I was a dean and from 2015 to 2019, that was around 100. So we're seeing a huge decrease in the number of physical aggression. Harassment and bullying is down considerably, and even discrimination. So nice data to see where we'd love to see 0 across the board in all those. But overall, I think our numbers are trending in the right direction since COVID. Data with our ethnic groups divided up. So you can see the student population versus the number of referrals. It's pretty equitable across the board. The only area of concern I see is this last year, and this was almost identical to the middle of the year data, which we have 3% of our student population is American Indian, Alaska Native, and they receive 6% of the referrals. And so it's something that we kind of need to dig a little deeper into on how we can support those students. It is a small group of students that are receiving a large number of the referrals within that ethnic group. So I think it's just a matter of working with those students a little bit more, working with Bree to support the families and just, kind of what can we do to help support them a little bit better so they avoid those referrals. And then as my last one is kind of the participation piece. So there's a lot of things the students can do at Marshfield High School, but unfortunately we don't keep really good data on our clubs and non-OSAA activities. So I kind of want to give you an idea of when you look at OSAA activities and athletics and activities, this is kind of what you see. Now I will say we are one of the only 4A schools in the state that offers all OSAA activities and athletics. We're the only one. And I can say that because there's actually only two 4A schools in the state currently that offer speech and debate. That's us and Marist. And Marist doesn't offer competitive dance, which is the upbeat. So that being said, Marist is the only one that's close to us, which is a pretty outstanding accomplishment for our athletic and activity programs. Next year, there's a pretty good chance that we will be adding girls flag football as an OSAA sanctioned sport. And Mr. Recorder is already adding that program for our girls in the spring. So we're pretty excited about that. You can see overall between last year to this year, we had growth in all activities, whether they were fall sports, winter, spring, or year long. And year long is speech and debate, band, and choir, as they're all part of OSAA activities. And then just the total number overall for all students. And then the last one is total students. So that is the number of students who participated in at least one OSAA activity or sport. So last year was 394 and this year was 409, which that means 409 students. That's 50% of our student population or more. It's actually more than 50%. So we're pretty excited about that. All right, questions?
Okay, anybody have any questions?
I just got a couple comments. This is Nady, Addie. These are really, really useful slides. I really appreciate how in-depth they are. I'm wondering, it would be really helpful. You went over your goals in the first couple of slides. I lost track of which data had a goal related to it and which goals you weren't able to talk about yet because testing isn't finished or whatever. So it would be helpful to know just on the slide, our goal was 70 and here's how we did. Or we're not able to address that one yet because I sort of lost track of that part. I'm also really curious. I think, just your mentioning about the longitudinal data around behavior and fighting and stuff. If you have some longitudinal data and your collection processes haven't changed so much that it's impossible to display, it would be really interesting to start to see more than 1 year around some of this. And I don't know if other schools can do the same thing, but to begin to look at what did it look like 3 years ago for these particular things? What did it look like 5 years ago, and what does it look like now? It really helps put a school, or put it into some context. Because I never would have guessed, that there were 35 fist fights and now there was only 5 or whatever, or there used to be 100. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. And so if there are opportunities in some of these data sets where it's important to set the context by including some longitudinal stuff, I think that would be really, really interesting to see. Because it helps me understand, 100 is a really big different number than 35 or whatever.
Well, we can go all the way back, basically since I was the dean 2015, because as long as we've had Synergy, we have the data. So I can definitely go back at least 10 years and give you a good idea of what it was like prior to COVID and what it's like after COVID.
Right. Well, I think to be thoughtful for all the schools where some of that might be really help tell a story over more than just one particular year, especially Absolutely. Because then people go, oh yes, that 3rd grade class is now in 10th grade. That kind of thing really helps. Mm-hmm. And I would love to see some data on the clubs and after school activities. You said you weren't collecting much right now.
No. So our plan next year is that, when we start the school year, we're going to, we did a survey. Mr. Roberts did a co-curricular survey at the beginning of the year. And we were able to find out, what students were doing. But a lot of the clubs and stuff, it's kind of like, yeah, I show up, but do you really show up? So it's keeping a roster for those advisors. And then kind of check marking, are they active participants or do they just say that they are, kind of thing, where we know all of our OSAA kids are because they show up to the sporting events or they show up to the, the band and choir concerts and stuff like that. But, who actually shows up to Z Club, who actually shows up to the National Honor Society meetings consistently, stuff like that. So it's something I'm going to work with all advisors on starting in the fall to keep an active role of who actually shows up and who participates, especially in all the events too, because just, again, putting your name on paper and actually being part of the club and showing up to the events is another thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear. And we've heard a lot about great clubs this year, and it's been really exciting.
Yeah, that's been a huge highlight is the adding of, 2 cultural clubs. We have the Asian American Pacific Islander and then the Jewish Club. And then we have 2 additional National Honor Society clubs that we'll be adding, a musical one and then a League of Women, which is new to us. But they're both nationally recognized merit scholarship clubs. So it's pretty exciting to add those as well.
That is awesome. Well, I really want to thank you. And if it's possible, I don't think we had the link to this deck.
Yes, I need to get that from Principal
And
Ashton.
so I just want to
That was
ask.
my fault.
Well, I looked at all the links that I had in advance. And so especially for these nights where we're looking at these, to have them at least 2 days in advance is really, really helpful, because then you can see the you can really look in there and see the numbers and get your questions in order. Mm-hmm. So that would be great. I know everybody's super busy, but thank you. That's all for me.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify something that you said at the beginning of your presentation, Principal Ashton. You said that something along the lines of that students could be eligible for participating in graduation ceremony if they made up community service hours. Can you clarify, what is that policy around whether our students can participate in the graduation ceremony and their attendance?
So it's an expectation that seniors have 90% attendance to be able to participate in the graduation ceremony. Similar to like anything, students do have hardships. We do take those into account, and so we do not penalize students for those hardships. But like I said, where you saw a lot of the skipping as our one of our major issues as far as discipline, students who choose to skip do have to make up that time through community service.
Why is that okay? Why do they not just get the consequence?
Of just not participating in the ceremony?
Yeah, that's the consequence. That is the natural consequence of.
It is. But as I always remind the students, the graduation ceremony is not just about them. It's about their families, and in their youth. And so I try not to penalize them for poor decisions. I try to allow them an opportunity to rectify that, to make sure that they can attend the graduation ceremony. Because like I said, it's really a lot about the parents and the families who've gotten to that point, and not just about them getting that diploma. Because we do have some students that will choose to say, I don't even want to attend. In fact, we had one student literally just say, I don't care, I'm not going to participate. And then he ended up participating because, it was a huge ordeal for both his mom and dad, who really felt that they earned that opportunity to watch him walk across the stage. So, it's something that, I don't think being a hardliner on that really, gives it justice to the kids because of the families. But we do want to make sure that there is a consequence to it, and they do it through that community service avenue.
I just wanted to say,
I wonder if the exception is growing too large. If we're going to put out a consequence, we should be very clear and follow through with it. And I get what you're saying, and I think that's admirable. Yes, we want to support the families and other things like that, but we also need to be cautious about opening up this other avenue. And one of the things that you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation is a real struggle is attendance and skipping. And so this is, it sounds like something of a license to skip and then make it up later, which is not preparing people for the workforce. So I guess I'm pushing you a little hard on this, not because I think that you're probably doing this in a very fair way across a lot of students and families. But I'm just pushing you because if our attendance and skipping are problems, and we can let kids make it up on the backside with no consequence, that may be the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Principal Ashton?
Kim has her hand up.
Oh, Kim, go ahead.
hi, I just wanted to say, I love the fact that you have the community service in order to make up for the skipping. We're talking 16, 17, 18-year-olds who are still maturing, that don't understand the significance of walking across the stage. I've experienced it personally, as well as I've had family members experience this. And the parents or guardians who've been with that child throughout their lives and supported them. This is not just about the student. And a lot of times they'll say, you know what, it doesn't matter to me. The kids will be like, oh, it doesn't matter to me if I walk across the stage. It's not that big of a deal. So if they're given an opportunity, it's not just a pass. Like you skipped, so now you're just going to be able to walk across the stage. They have to do community service.
Community service is not education. Community service is not, it's not, it is.
Yeah,
Community service is a good thing, but it is not.
I disagree. So I'm just going to finish. Hold on. I'm going to finish because I was still talking. Thank you. I disagree. I think community service can be educational, and it can help the students see that there are consequences. You don't just get a pass to walk. And it's very important to a lot of families. And I think that if you change that, we would have a lot of parent and community pushback. I don't know if you've ever experienced this as a principal before, where you've had to tell a family that they couldn't unless this was done, and had a child or a student not do it and see how that went. Or if Arnie had ever experienced that as well. But I do agree that there's things outside of our educational box that are very educational and academic for students that don't necessarily have to be what we traditionally label them. I mean, that's what alt ed is all about. So I agree with this policy, and I think it's advantageous. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to put like a stop on this topic, because it appears to be something that we need to talk about offline, you know, I mean, in a setting for the whole board where that is the topic of conversation. So, does anybody else have any questions for Eli? I have one well, it's probably not real quick, but you talked about how you had this learning loss in the first semester, really, of kids coming up. Is that like a generalized thing, or are you finding it in certain subjects, or?
It was really with science. So it was the change in the pathway of science. So historically, we had done a physical science freshman year, biology, and then the earth environmental science for juniors. We adjusted that because our AP chemistry and AP physics we thought were more suitable for our juniors and seniors, and so that's why we kind of made that adjustment. And I think making that adjustment for our environmental science teachers was a challenge this first semester. And we saw a lot of growth second semester, which was great. But it's something that we need to revisit and help students be a little bit more successful that first semester for the upcoming school year.
Thank you.
I just have one quick question. This was the first year that we did the AP seminar across the board with what grade was that? 10th grade?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I had a hard time seeing. I have bad eyes. I'm sorry. So I don't know if anything was presented on on that as far as like academically how well the kids did with everyone enrolling in that, and maybe that not being a pathway for some kids that.
So I forgot. I glanced over it. It was on that slide with the passing rates for the core subjects. So first semester we had 81% passing rate for that sophomore class, and then second semester it jumped up to 85. So we did see some improvement. We did see a drop in the number of kids that were enrolled in AP seminar. There is no online version. Dr. Crook has kind of made an adaptation for the upcoming school year for a research-based English course that students will be taking if they take online, but there is no AP version for online. It's not available. We are doing we have an option for some of our students that meet that criteria to opt out of it for a Seminar 10 class. We'll have 2 sections of that next year for some students that meet the criteria for opting out, as outlined in the board policy. So we're hopefully going to see a little bit more success as we kind of evolve. Our teachers learned a lot with AP Seminar this year, obviously kind of getting thrown into it, towards the end of the school year last year, and then learning a lot on the fly. AP is not very forgiving. They have very high expectations. It's very rigorous, and there's not a lot of wiggle room. College Board does not allow for it. So Seminar 10 will basically be a lot of the same curriculum that is in the AP Seminar class, but provides the teachers with the flexibility to support students and help choices as far as research projects, grouping, things like that aren't available within the AP Seminar class.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right.
Turning it back over to you, Dr. Roberts.
Thank you. All right, we're going to switch now over to Director Lake from Lighthouse. And just to let you know, we're running a little long on time here. So I'm going to have David for our last presentations. For the rest of them, put a 10-minute timer up so we can somewhat stay on schedule. And so for all of our K6 folks, pre-K6 folks, they're going to have a 10-minute timer, because I'm afraid if we don't, we might be here until past 9 o'clock. And we're getting into the 7 o'clock hour. So David will work on getting that timer up on the screen so it can be seen. And with that, I will turn it over to Director Lake, who I know was here earlier. Yeah, she pulled her thing out. Yeah.
Did you want the timer for this one too?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to unmute yourself.
Talking to myself. Hello, everyone. Try again. Lighthouse School ended on June 11th, and we had 16 students promote. All of our 8th grade students promoted. I just gathered some year-to-date attendance for you here. So as you can see, we've got the kindergarten was our lowest for the regular attendance, and 67% of our kindergartners were 90% or higher. And our highest was the fourth grade. So in fourth grade, we had 96% regular attenders for the school year. That was through the end of May. So I didn't get the last 2 weeks of school in that data. I've gathered together our benchmarks. So we do DIBELS 3 times a year, and we do Easy CBM 3 times a year. And looking at the bottom here, I kind of like to prepare a comparison of the beginning of the year, the end of the year for the Lighthouse School Board. And so I gather that for you as well, just to show any growth throughout the year between the different areas. For intervention in kindergarten, first and second grade, we did have a reading coach pushed in to K1 and 2.
Yeah, waiting for you to get off your.
Oh, I'm going to be on another hour.
For K1-2, we do have a reading coach that pushes in for whole group instruction. And then we do have small group pull out for intensive intervention for our most at-risk students in K1-2. And then 3 through 5th grade, we do small group intervention. And then if we have any students who qualify outside of an IEP for intervention, we do pull out for them as well in the 6 through 8. So here's kind of a comparison for all of our grades and where they're at. Light blue is the beginning of the year and dark blue is end of the year. When I look at the grades specifically that dropped, I like to look at where they're dropping. For the most part, most of the students were reading or decoding in the 70% or higher. And the drop was in fluency, so reading per minute. How fast they were reading. So they were able to decode specifically in our 3rd through 8th grade and above, but it was how fast they could do it and how that impacted their comprehension. Likewise, here's the data for our 1st through 8th grade. That's what we do for Easy CBM. We only do DIBELS for kindergarten, and we do Easy CBM for 1st through 8th grade. So for ELA, we saw similar trends. When I looked at the 1st and 2nd grade drops, talking to the teachers, they do a very soft intro into the benchmarks where they read the passages to the students, and then the students answer the comprehension questions with support. And then by the end of the year, the students are doing it almost entirely individual or with small group intervention in the 1st and 2nd grades for our reading support. And then this is our math data as well. Traditionally, we do see a drop in 5th grade throughout the different years that I've looked. 5th grade traditionally performs lower than the other grades. And I think possibly through talking with the teacher, that's through the rigor expectation increase. And then we see an upward trend in our 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. So we're working with our 5th grade teacher because this year was one of the lowest drops we ever saw. That's our COVID kinders. But we don't want to rely on that as an excuse, and we want to give them as much intervention as we can, specifically in math and reading, which they really struggled with this year. So working with our reading coaches for the 26-27 year, we're going to do a lot more push and support for our 6th grade with our language arts teacher. We're going to do some reading buddies with younger students to build fluency and comprehension. Here's a little more breakdown of the numbers that I just showed you in the benchmarks. And so we can see that drop in the 1st grade across the area from beginning of year to end of year. And we want to make sure that we're bringing them back up to that proficiency level. We always try to at least meet the 50 percentile, but of course, more is better. 2nd grade, we did see an increase of about 5% in DIBELS. We saw an increase of 28% in math, and then we did see the drop in the reading comprehension piece for Easy CBM. And so the DIBELS, again, is that decoding, and the Easy CBM focuses on that comprehension. So not just can you read it, but can you understand what you read, apply, and critically think about it. 3rd grade, we saw a match across the board, not a lot of growth in the DIBELS area, but we did see the growth in the comprehension for math and reading. 4th grade, we saw a significant drop. They're a really sharp group of kids, and so I actually was working with the 4th grade teacher quite a bit to do a lot of advancement in the rigor and expectations for those students, just to give them that extra challenge that we know they can handle. And then the 5th grade is the area that we really want to focus on for the coming year to increase our reading proficiency and our math proficiencies. This is our 6th grade. We did see a drop in DIBELS, but an increase in both EasyCB and math and reading. 7th grade, we did see that slight drop in reading and math that we want to make sure we're going in the other direction. One thing that we did in 7th and 8th grade a couple years back is we separate the group of students for math class. So we take our level 3 4s and we put them into a math honors program that is more advanced and is more challenging. And we have seen good results with that longitudinal, but not immediate. So the 7th grade year, it does impact our advanced students because it is a higher rigor. And then we do see the payout typically in the 8th grade year. So this year we had 3 students in 7th grade math honors, and we had 6 students in the 8th grade math honors. And so of the 6 students, one of their 7th graders actually was in the 8th grade math honors. They're taking the Algebra 1 course through the high school. And of those 6, 4 passed with an 80% proficiency for the year and will enter high school at that 10th grade math ready level. For our referrals, a lot of our interventions this year were primarily in K2 and they didn't get formal referrals. So that data is not really reflected here. That's a goal that I want to change for the coming year is how we're tracking our K2. A lot of our K2 get push and support with our Dean of Students in the classroom and for emotional regulation so that the behaviors are, if they're neurodivergent, they're receiving the services that they need for social and emotional regulation before it escalates to a formal referral. And we did see a lot of benefit from having our Dean of Students push into the classroom rather than wait for the referral to have the students come out of the classroom. So these referrals are primarily from our 5th through 8th grade with major offenses. That could look like we had, an individual bring a weapon to school. It was a minor weapon. We worked with the family on that one. We did a behavior assessment and a risk assessment. We had, minor punching. It's actually a level 3 where it's a nonviolent intervention where, it could have escalated, but staff members were able to intervene before it escalated to a level 4. So this is an area that we want to work on for a goal in the coming year is to correlate our referrals more in alignment with the district. And so we have adopted Character Strong for the 26-27 year. And we have our Dean of Students pushing in for some professional development in the fall for all of our teachers. And then we have a 45-minute block each week per grade for Character Strong and SEL lessons. Couple of the highlights from this year, since we want to end the year with strength, we did take 37 of our 7th and 8th grade students and their parents to Washington, D.C. for 5 days. And we had a wonderful time with the students. And we've already had such success that we have 29 individuals registered for our 2028 trip. So we take the 7th and 8th grade students and give them 2 years to fundraise and offset the expense of this trip. And we did have some very generous scholarship donations to help students finalize any balance owed within the last 3 months to help all of the students that exhibited interest to be able to go with us. We have an annual bike to school day twice a year. We call it our bike bus, and we coordinate with the community, with the Coos Bay Police Department and the Coos Bay Fire Department to help with traffic controls. They start at the Coos Bay Library and they bike to school in the morning with BikeWorks community members and staff members, and they're escorted with the Coos Bay Police Department. And then we have a big celebration when the group arrives to school, and then after school, same thing. They're able to bike back to Coos Bay Library and get picked up by their family members. So we did that beginning of the year and then at the end of the year. Classroom accolades and highlights. The end of the year is always super exciting. We have a lot of different project-based learning activities that take place and decorate the halls. Here's just a couple of things that took place in pre-K, first, second, and third grade. Fourth and fifth grade, we had our annual science fair for our middle school, and we did some project-based learning for the upcoming DC trip. We have our annual field trips thanks to the Lighthouse Parent Organization and Friends of Lighthouse Fundraising Committee that help to fundraise for 2 to 3 field trips per grade annually. And then the Southport Lumber Company sponsors us to come out because they are alumni of Lighthouse School. We take our 7th graders and 8th graders to the Shakespeare Festival and the University of Oregon for a tour. And then the 8th graders got to do their ropes course for school bonding at the beginning of the year and the Jerry Jet boats at the end of the year for promotional celebration. We had our Lighthouse annual festival, both in the fall and spring, at the Marshfield High School auditorium. So thank you for partnering us with that. And then just a couple of goals for the coming year. We are implementing Character Strong, as I stated. We do plan to transition our benchmarks from EasyCBM to the NWE MAP, which is a smart adaptive testing in alignment with SB 141. And this would be year 2 of implementation for the Carnegie Math curriculum that we adopted last year, and we're hoping to finalize with Fidelity next year. And that's the end of my presentation. Any questions?
So I have one question. On that 4th grade that is lower with respect to your achievement levels, how were they in 3rd grade?
I've been well, that would be the 5th grade year, correct? So the 4th grader, they're rock stars. They're doing really well. The 5th graders are the ones who are struggling, and they have been dropping consistently annually. And so they're at the 17% math proficiency and 32% reading, and I've been watching them drop annually. And we've been trying. I mean, I'm honestly at a wit's end. I'm actually taking a PD this summer on intervention to support that class specifically because they are my biggest concern right now.
Okay, I just want to make sure it wasn't the subject matter as opposed to the class. So it appears to be.
No, we've been tracking this class since 3rd grade because that's when we start the OSIS testing, and they've been dropping annually. Okay. So we definitely, they are on my primary radar for the middle school years.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you for presenting the data and all the fun things you guys are doing with your students. I'd like to encourage or request that the next time you present that we see growth, not just the end of year, beginning of year, middle of year, end of year color flow, but the years of growth, because I think that would highlight what you were talking about with Arnie's class very clearly, and would also catch that with other classes quite clearly, is students not making a full year's worth of growth and then getting more behind each year. And that would be useful to see that the data more in that format.
I typically present that to my board, and I can definitely do that for this board in the fall as well when the OSIS data is public, because I do actually have that on a separate spreadsheet, but because we haven't publicized this year's data, that's not something I included for this specific presentation, but I do actually have that because I do track them with longitudinal data from 3rd grade through the course of their enrollment at school.
Perfect, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks, Director Lake. Enjoy Nebraska.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Guthrie, Milcoma, you are up. Just a reminder, David will set the 10-minute timer.
And play me off like that.
The Oscars?
Yeah.
Full screen.
All right, how are you? All right, so this is my 3rd opportunity to present. We did beginning of the year, middle of the year, today's our end of the year. If you remember, at the beginning of the year, our goals were based on last year's results and the board's 2028 goals. I tried to strike a point that was like getting us moving that way. I used the word lofty a lot in the fall. So Keep that in mind. All right, so David, so where am I at here? Where's my pointer?
I should just be able to click it
Go
forward.
one more.
I heard buzz. No, nope. This is Canada too, so I'm not sure about
All right. Regular attenders, our goal was 80%. We started off September at 80, declined. One of our other presenters mentioned flu, colds. We got to March, spring break, and then we just kind of flatlined. One thing, looking at attendance at our grade level, it's, in my opinion, it's more of a family thing than a student, student can't get up and get in a car and drive to school. One thing, I was talking with Kara a little bit, we're adding time to our day next year. I think we struggle with our early release Friday. A lot of parents think that's a half day. And I didn't dive into the data, so I can't back this up with numbers and say, look, that it's Friday's our big problem. I think it presents a problem for us, getting a head start on the weekend because it's a half day. Our sixth grade, I know it's not been a strong academic day, and kids probably tell their parents, oh, we don't want to do a whole lot of work on Friday. I think that will be corrected with our extended day, and then we've also revamped our schedule, and in sixth grade specifically, it's going to be a much more of an academic day for our kids. So English language arts, DIBELS, the first three bars are third grade, next year fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade. Our goal is to have 80% of our students in the green or the blue. And at our end of the year, we were at 66, 57, 62, and 56. So we didn't meet that goal. The one thing I would draw your attention to is, I call it the yellow line. In most of our grades, we see that yellow line is decreasing. So we're having more of our kids are getting to grade level or above. With DIBELS, it's kind of a moving target. So it establishes a goal for you in the fall. And then the number you're trying to hit in middle year, it's like, okay, well, you should have learned some things, so it's going up. So the fact that we're making growth, we're keeping up with that target, but we're not at the growth level that we would like to be at. Savvas is our math. Unlike DIBELS, Gary was sharing with me that Savvas, I don't know if he did a deep dive, but he was led to believe or led to understand that when you start day one, it says, here's where you should be at the end of your grade year. And then that goal stays kind of flat. So that helps me. If you look at sixth grade, we started with 91% of our sixth graders were below sixth grade. I'm like, oh my word. That's a little bit of an explanation for that. But if you look at those yellow trend lines, we had great growth in our math. Our goal was 55. We're at 66, 45, 28. Whoops, wrong number. 38 here. Fifth grade was our only one, but third grade just crushed it. And I'm curious, this is our second year with Savvas as our math curriculum. And I'm curious if those 2 years hit them at just the right time. And that's why we've seen that so much growth for them. I'm not, again, I don't have strong data. That's just a wondering. But again, if you look at that yellow line, great growth in math. And I'm really proud of that growth. Oh, I didn't get a buzz that time. Okay, here we go. So Savvas gives us a printout of what they consider appropriate growth. Dr. Rogalski, I don't know if you can see it, but this is less than 1 here. It did say that 84% of our students in the third grade did show appropriate growth for 1 year's time. Grade as a whole, we did not get that one that you're asking about. If we go to fourth grade, in fourth grade, again, not a full year. This bar to this bar would be a full year. But 80% of our students showing what our curriculum thinks is appropriate growth.
Do we know where that, I saw that we're gonna see similar slides to this across multiple schools. You said, do we know where that line is drawn, what appropriate growth for a year means? Is it 0.7? Is it 0.5? Like what is appropriate growth for a year?
Appropriate growth, from my understanding from Savas, Chad can correct me if I'm out there, but it should be 0.10 is 1 month of the school year. So when you have 0.55, we're looking up there at 5th grade, 0.55, that's 5.5 months of growth. Is that correct, Chad?
Yeah, that's correct.
When you're looking at success
It
rate.
becomes becomes complicated though if students are maybe below grade level, because it's difficult to get them to make that months of growth in a month because they're behind, they're struggling with math. The goal is then to try to figure out how to get them to catch up at it's difficult. There's not an exact formula to where I can say that a student that's starting right here, they should make this exact amount of growth to be on schedule. Just math in general, as educators, it's not formulaic like that. We don't have the ability to do that.
But what is the slide telling us? So 84% of kids made how much growth?
I don't know that number.
84% of the kids based on the computer system say they're making appropriate growth.
But we don't know we don't know where the definition of appropriate growth stands.
Correct.
This is what this national standardized program says is appropriate.
It's pretty close to what he says though. It's 0.1 per month or 1.0 per year.
So it should be about 0.9, 9 months of school.
They go by 10 months.
Oh, 10 months.
That's why it's
Should be
1.0. So
it should be 1.0.
And it could be weighted either way,
Appropriate
depending
growth
on.
should be 1.0, which I.
But that's going to be geared towards the average student. So those outliers, the students that are at the top of the curve or the bottom of the curve, it's not going to work out exactly like that. It's hard to have a formula that makes that exact.
And one of the things we're dealing with Savas right now is Amplify. You can run a spreadsheet of well below average, average, above average, and well above average growth for the school year. In Savas, we've been talking back and forth with them about what they consider, they have a typical growth measure. But one of the things we're running into and looking at the typical growth data is you could go from red to green. You start the year in the red, end in green. By their definition of typical growth, you would not meet typical growth. And I'm like, how can you go from red to green and not meet typical growth? But they have a different formula and we're kind of weeding through this formula and trying to get
that's one of those
better clarity.
outliers.
Yeah. We're trying to get some better clarity from Savas on what they consider typical growth and how they measure it.
If you're in the green, if you stay in the green, you made a year's worth of growth. Approximately. I mean, there's the low end of the green and there's the high end of the green, but statistically, you made about a year's worth of growth. If you're in the yellow and you stay in the yellow, same thing. You've made about a year's worth of growth. So that's why we're aiming on trying to move the kids from the red to the yellow, and then the next year or 3 years, depending on how far they're back, to move them from the red to the yellow.
It seems like maybe I'm just trying to think of, as a district, we should have a standard way that we report our educational success. And it seems like the best metric is a year's worth of growth or fractions thereof.
Okay, can I interrupt for a minute? We only gave him 10 minutes to make his report. So let's let the report go on, and then at the end, whatever time we have left, we can ask questions, okay?
Well, and I should have paused that. I'll give him some time back.
Okay, thank you.
We can work on trying to make something that works for us, and then we might have to see if that works and then adjust.
Yeah, this specific slide is gonna come up several times. I just want to make sure I understood. Thank you.
It's gonna come up one more time.
For me, do more after that. Yeah.
I want 6th grade.
Oh, sorry, no, it should go now. Or as soon as that fades. No, there's no rhyme or reason to this.
So 6th grade was 72% of students. made acceptable growth. I don't have an answer for your question. I was going to point out what Mr. Roberts had shared about we have kids that go from below grade level to at grade level and get tagged as not making appropriate growth. So the next slide, if it ever lets me go there, or if David gets there for me, I pulled, this is off of the Oregon Data Suite, and you can see year by year. This year is the top one. So I tried to do some wondering about this. We had some turnover in our ELA classroom from a teacher standpoint. We had some turnover in our emotional growth center classroom, but you would think that maybe then that would come down once that stabilized. So that can't be attributed to it. We had some new students. The more I tried to work through this and piece it out, I think it was more of a staff issue, that our staff was a little more dysregulated, I think. And maybe their empathy bucket was not as full as it should have been. That's just a wondering. I don't have hard data to back that up. I did notice that we didn't get any kind of a honeymoon this year. If you look at September, starts down here every year, and this year they came in fully loaded for us, I guess. I went ahead and entered our OSAS data because I was kind of proud of it. We'll go through it quickly. This was our math. Our goal was 45. None of our grades reached 45, but I did a comparison of each grade level to the state average. Third and fourth grade were right there. Fifth and sixth grade, not so much. And then in our ELA, again, our goal was 51. Fourth grade met our goal. And if you look here, we're right at state averages or above state averages in all of our grade levels. And then I have fifth grade science on here. We did not have a goal for fifth grade science. I just wanted to show there. So that's 28% are at grade level. That's what that number represents. And then David, I think I just have the one more slide with pictures.
Questions for Mr. Guthrie?
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. Principal Davidson, Sunset School.
Hi, everyone. It's freezing in here.
I tried to turn on the boilers off.
It's not, it says we're here too late.
Almost click east side. It's been a while.
I know. All right, well, this was a year of change at Sunset School. The staff had a lot of new to get used to, with a whole new office staff, whole new administration, new position even with our dean of students. They were used to having 3 administrators towards the end of last year, but not that Rachel is an administrator, our dean of students. She's in a TOSA role, but certainly acts more as an administrator than a teacher, because she's dealing with behavior a lot. And they also had to get used to a different level of expectation for rigor and inspection of what was expected. And so those pacing guides that we've been working on as a district, the expectation is you will be following them. And so it was a lot. I didn't get a lot of pushback at all. People were ready for change and excited for it. I got some hesitation and some, I don't know if we can do this. And I'm proud to report that every grade level stayed on their pacing guide. And I reminded them a lot this year. I was like, remember when you told me you couldn't? And here we are. And so our students got a lot more exposure to grade level curriculum this year than they have in our adopted curriculum from the last 2 years. So that was exciting. This hasn't been working, right?
Sometimes it does.
It's an occasional.
Yeah.
All right, so here are our goals and where we stand. My goal from the beginning of the year was to have 60% of our Sunset students proficient in ELA. We did not meet that goal. We landed at 48%, which was like a 10% increase overall from last year. In math, I set the goal at 40%. And again, this was based on kind of end of year data from last year. Set that at 40%. Did not meet. We ended the year at 34% proficient in math. This one I'm excited about though. We set the goal of 65% of our students are regular attenders, and we met that at 69%. Attendance was a huge jump this year of improvement of like upwards of like 20% or something. And so that makes me feel good about the changes happening at Sunset, and maybe we're creating a more welcoming environment where parents are excited to send their kids. And we had 100% of our students enrolled in music, which was one of your prizes. Did they stay in music all the time? No, they did not, but we worked through it. All right, there's that attendance data over time, really strong in the fall and kind of dropped off, but really remained there in the high 60s for every grade level. Sixth grade was our hardest group to get to school often, and they brought our average down. But I told you guys in the middle of the year, we brought out some attendance incentives, and our third graders really glommed onto that and won at the end of the year, and I was taped to a wall for a short time. So that was exciting. All right, here's our ELA data. So our end of year is highlighted in a bolder color. I've told you what we did overall. I still not seeing a lot of growth, right? Like we're shrinking in the red a little bit and growing the blues and greens, but not at a pace that I'm comfortable with, right? If we want to make change, we have to add even more rigor. And so I think I know what we're gonna do into next year for instruction is to continue on with the focus we had this year and making small instructional changes across the board, like giving kids more opportunities to respond and making sure that it's something we can monitor and that is monitored, and that we're giving that data back to teachers right away so that they can see like, oh, I thought I was giving opportunities to respond, but not at the rate that was expected or whatever, so that they're looking at it right away and can learn and change, because that's an easy thing to change in instruction. You don't have to learn anything to give students more opportunities to share what they're learning. And so we'll just pick up right where we left off there. They got used to us being in classrooms and telling that and giving that data to them. Also with like explicit praise and making sure that students understand what they're doing well and why it's correct, right? And so those just small little adjustments in instruction, I think will give us a lot of like a faster growth. But, okay, so these are the growth rates. I think that you were referring to, Dr. Rogaski. I'll have to explain this, but the red is that well below average growth. Okay, so those are the kids that are really struggling to make appropriate progress. And then the yellows are below average, just below that average line. And then the rest is up here. So if you want to make a year's growth in a year and you want to be a grade level, you want to stay in that green or above, right? And we need our red kids making this expedited growth, right? And so some of them are. If you look at our SPED data, my ALC teacher has done a really good job of calling that out and seeing how fast her students are growing. And our SPED students now are making that kind of above average growth in 1 year's time. But they're starting well below grade level. And so there's a long way to go there, but I think it's trending in the right direction. And what's more important than all of that is that we're talking about it as a staff and we're looking at growth rate and we're making that a topic of how we're educating ourselves on how to improve that, how to dive deeper into data and make sure that we are getting in touch with families. Like if Kevin Dubasar is not making an appropriate rate of growth, then I'm going to talk to your mom about that. And we're going to call her in and say, hey, what's going on here? And so Amelia Eastside had talked to me about doing that. They practiced that this year, and he said from that beginning of middle time when they saw those growth rates and not, if they were staying stagnant, we're calling in, do we have an attendance problem? Like, can we put you on a plan? And so kind of doing a little SST work kind of informally to just kind of let parents know that, hey, this is where we want it to be and we're not meeting the mark. Do I have to talk about math or? We have a lot of work to do in math, and I don't know if it is, again, we're in year 2 of implementation and getting used to a new curriculum and pacing guides and keeping up, but we're also dealing with significant holes in number sense for the kids that are coming in. So I am encouraged by our third graders, like Kevin is, at Millicoma, because like he said, maybe they've gotten used to it enough, or they got their number sense stuff in, when they were supposed to in those primary years. But we have a long ways to go in math instruction, and I think that's well known in our district, that we put a lot of work into our ELA, implementation of that curriculum and how we were going to address the data trends. And so now we have a nice little template that we can hopefully use, just put math in there and attack it the same way, and doing core reviews and looking at like whole group data like this and saying, okay, what concepts are missing and how can we tackle those first? But as we've learned here tonight, SAVIS is tough to determine, like what do the reports mean? We have some work to do in the district to kind of help them help us improve instruction here. I got it down to one slide today. So all grade levels are on here. And you'll see that 5th grade made the most gains with 1.18. And I will say that 5th grade, in a time where we've been talking about moving away from Chromebooks, 5th grade spent a lot of time this year in SuccessMaker. And I think they were using it kind of as that intervention tool to make up for some of that lost time, but they were spending a lot of time in SuccessMaker. They had a lot of growth in SuccessMaker too, because this is a SuccessMaker graphic. But, and I don't want to give it all the credit for the amount of growth, but I imagine the time spent in there made a difference for them.
That would be saying that a student has made like a year and 20%.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be almost 1 point,
Yeah.
One
year
and a quarter,
months.
year and
One
2
school
months.
year in 2 months.
In 2 months. I mean, 12 months of growth in 10 months.
But still well behind 5th grade.
Right, but that is the number, those are the kind of numbers that we should be celebrating and really focusing in on, because our students who come in from home with, quote, below, grade level number sense or below grade level ability, literacy, sense of the letters, they're already starting behind. It's the extra growth that matters over
Stretch growth.
Yeah, stretch growth. Okay.
Okay. And then this is by grade level of their realized reports, just kind of give you a graph of where they started and where they ended. Obviously, we want that to look a little steeper. And kind of, that's the pattern of growth for all of our grade levels. You can just mosey right through those. All right, so I don't know if there's a better graphic for what happens in a school year. We get to know them in September, right? These are these behavior referrals. And then we get to April and May. And April and May are the longest months of the school year. Like you're just going all the time. And everybody's sick of each other, right? And so those numbers spiking are not surprising to me at all. But we did put systems in place at Sunset that really, from, what people are telling me that work there, that said, for example, in April, this was a rough month. I came into the office and Mr. Pitts, our ELL teacher, was like, what's going on? He's always the happiest guy in the room. And I said, have you seen it out there today? Like the 6th graders have lost their minds. And he said, this is what it's been like every day before now. So now you're just experiencing it in April. It's good. I was like, this is what September felt like. And so we got it back turned around. The systems are working because the teachers are using them. And we're just using the call response plan that our district has, and Madison uses it, Eastside uses it. Millicoma is going to start being more strict about it because it's working. It's putting some kind of onus on the teachers a little bit to take care of some issues on their own and not just remove the problem, right? Because oftentimes we can be the problem and engaging in power struggles and whatnot. So I'm pleased to see that behavior referrals have gone down. And then we have our positive office referrals to celebrate, of course. And our last 2 slides are just some cool things that happened near the end of the year. Our ALC, ALC teacher, Andrea Ba, asked the fire department to come in to celebrate growth rates, not to celebrate kids who were making proficiency, but to give these students in each classroom who made the most amount of growth over the school year. And they got a hot streak in reading success. And so she thought it'd be nice to bring the fire department in and like, you know, in an effort to like put the fire out because they're growing at such a fast rate. And so the kids are really excited to be recognized in such a way. The firefighters were great sports about it. Our mayor did a little write-up and sent out a message on his Facebook page about community action in Sunset School. So he's done a couple on us this year with Madison as well. And then the last one is the Kiwanis Club gave us $2,500 for our Sunset Care Closet. This is Cynthia Shields. She's our library clerk and her 3 kids. She's been working really hard with Andrea Baugh to put this closet together. And it has all sorts of stuff for people in our community to come and grab. They can do their laundry there. They can grab toiletry kits and all the things that they need. They've worked really hard to make it a nice place for our community. And people are using it, so it's exciting. Okay, I'm done.
Questions for Principal Davidson?
Thank you for such an articulate and clear presentation. I like how you talk about what school's really like. And I really appreciate you always talk about your principal crew, the other principals and what you're all doing together. And that is really great. I really appreciate that. It feels like it's like you all have a team.
Yeah.
And it's really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And come see Sunset. They're painting the rest of the inside. It's looking really good.
All right, thank you.
All right, good evening. Oops, sorry. Good evening. I am Principal Ed, and thank you for letting me be not there tonight to present. I actually have a doctor's appointment tomorrow in Portland, and I'm in Portland this evening. So we've had an exciting year at Eastside. Oh yeah, I'm trying to change the slides, David, but that's you. And so we'll just start right off with, if you could go to the next slide, our goals for the year. There's some fun things we did this spring: swimming lessons, and kids earned positive office for positive behavior. They earned a glow party, so that was really fun. You can go to the next slide. All right, so our goals for this year for our reading was, or for our regular attenders, our goal was 75% of our students, and we had we ended up at the end of the year with 70%. We were really pulled along by our second graders who had the best attendance, and our kindergartners. We really need our families in kindergarten to understand the importance of attendance, because that was a struggle with kindergarten. And however, we have some good data in kindergarten for other things. As far as reading, still trying to strive for that 80% for our whole school data. As a school, we ended up at 60%. And then as far as our math, our goal was 87. And we ended up with a overall of 82%. So that's kind of how we ended the year. And actually, at one point in time, I reported to parents that it was 86 because when I did the report, it was 86. And then we had a few kids show up that had been gone for about 10 days. And so it brought us down a little bit. But we did end it at 82. And so I'm still really happy for anything above 80%. I'm really excited for that. So great job to our students and our teachers. Okay. As far as just, like I said, regular attenders, at the end, we ended up at 70%, started out at 78 in September, and March was actually our worst month, which I was kind of surprised about. When I looked at it, I went, oh, I was thinking it was February, but it really dropped in March. And so really trying to push and educate families about attendance and how much, attendance adds up over time. And that it's not just excused absences, it's also absences that are unexcused together. And actually, at the beginning, we had handed out families that came to our open house, like, hey, here's a calendar. And if every time your kid is absent, mark it, because we like kids to be 17 or less days to be considered regular attenders. So I'm going to try to push that again and continue to educate families. All right, next slide, David. Thank you. All right, for Dibbles, excited about our kinder and first grade data. Would like to see better improvement with second grade, but overall, we did shrink our red, and that's really important as you look when our students are coming in kindergarten. The majority of them are in the red, and we pretty much flipped the triangle to 68% of our kids left in the blue or green in kindergarten, even with their attendance not being amazing. In first grade, really excited about this. Is the best first grade data I've ever seen. I was a first grade teacher for many years at Eastside before I was a TOSA and an intervention specialist and all the things. And so to see our first grade end with 72% in the blue or green is very, very exciting. They were about the same percentage at the end of kindergarten last year. So I'm really excited to see what they will do next year in second grade. And our first grade and kindergarten are super, super important for beginning decoding and making sure they acquire all the skills they need to be readers. So then by the end of first grade, we can really focus on fluency. And as they move on in second grade too. And so when I look at our second grade data, we spent a lot of time in second grade still backfilling that decoding, which really we should not be working on as much for the majority of our students. It really should be focused on fluency, right? They need that automaticity in their reading. So when they are reading, they aren't spending their working memory on decoding, but they can actually read fluently, so they can spend their working memory on comprehension. And so I'm excited to see what our first graders next year will be second graders and where that data will go for the future. But really, really important for reading is that K1 data. Oh, it's okay, David. So overall growth. So from the middle of the year to the end of the year, we had 62% of our students made average or above average growth. And then if you go to the next slide, David, for the full year, it was actually 69%. And like Kara said, we really tried to focus on this year at the middle of the year with families. So if students weren't already in our MTSS process with talking to families and setting goals, hadn't been identified yet, kids who did not make at least average growth, we also talked to their families and tried to talk about why. Why have you not made average growth? Is it your attendance? Like, what's going on? How can we support this child and their family to get that growth? Because that's like you're talking about, Dr. Rogowski, you know, that's super important for our kids to make that average growth at least. So they say in the same percentile, but we really want them to make above average growth if they are struggling, because that's going to put them, you know, out of the red zone and into the green and blue, which is where we want to see them. Okay. Sorry if I'm talking fast, but I'm trying to keep this presentation. Now you've been here a long time. Okay. As far as math, I'm really excited about our SAVIS data. And let's see. So in kindergarten, we ended the year with 86% were in the green and blue. And then in first grade, 82% were in the green and blue. And then in second grade, it was 77%. And I will attribute this to the foundations that Kara set as a principal in the past, you know, with the expectations of fidelity to the curriculum. And I would say our teachers really appreciate the SAVIS, the success maker, allowing to backfill and really support and differentiate instruction. And it is important for minutes, but really what's important is because you can spend 30 minutes on the program and do 2 problems correct. So we really set goals with our students around, like, we want you to get 50 questions correct or more a week, right? So we originally started with time, but we found kids were on there the right amount of time, but they really hadn't done anything. And so we changed it from time to questions that were correct. 50 questions correct was our goal at K1 and 2. And so our second grade did spend the most amount of time in the program, I would say overall, but first grade was not far behind. And so as you see, our first grade an average made the largest gains over a year's worth of growth. And kindergarten made about 6 months worth of growth, but 88% of our students were making average growth performance. They were doing acceptable performance. One thing I will say about the SAVIS program that's kind of tricky with Success Maker is if your student doesn't do very well on the beginning of their assessment that places them, it takes them a long time to make up for that. So they have to really not mess around on the beginning of the year, because they could be put way far back. And in order to move, you know, in levels within the program, I don't know if levels is the right word, you have to get 30 questions correct in a row on that type of question to move on to a harder question. And so if kids don't do very well on the assessment, it doesn't change in the middle of the year. So if we have a lot of kids make a lot of growth in the middle of the year assessment, it doesn't adjust to that, unfortunately. I wish it did, because it just is like how you've done within the Success Maker program and not the diagnostic assessment. Okay. So just as far as like our performance growth for our assessments, we started out the year in kindergarten in the yellow zone for most of our students, approaching grade level standards. And at the end, we were getting closer to that blue zone for a lot of our students. And then in first grade, we started out again in the yellow zone and ended up for most of our students in the green area for that growth with the assessment. So this is the assessment. Before we were looking at the Success Maker, which is a program to help adapt and help them grow, based on the skills that they're missing. And then in second grade, we have quite a, we made an adjustment in second grade, well, in all our grades, but it shows most in second grade with that whole time piece as compared to, changing from time being what we were looking at to actually correct questions. And it really did make a difference for our second graders. I don't have the data on this, but we give lots of awards to students when they make certain goals, like 6 hours and then 500 questions correct and 1,000 questions correct and 1,500 questions correct. And we had a student this year who got up to 4,000 correct questions, which was pretty exciting. The student in particular loves to go home and do a Success Maker. They really like Success Maker. And so that was really exciting to recognize students in that way and on the announcements very often. Okay. As far as, sorry.
There's that number in the upper left, the bold number, the average growth.
Yeah.
We know what is that number supposed to?
That's the data point that Gary was talking about that we don't really know. It's saying that it's 29, but what does 29 mean? Okay. And so, with Savvis, it's not clear. With Dibbles, it's a much more easy. It's easy to figure out what it is. I honestly am not sure with Savvis, so I'm sorry I cannot answer that question. Okay, that's been our struggle. Okay, as far as behavior, we had a full new office and a new dean and myself. And so we had some growing pains, but we really built upon the systems that were already in place at Eastside and tried to be a lot more proactive. So as opposed to reactive, like we were at 178 referrals. And so really seeing that trend line drop and really utilizing data to try to solve this. Like 10:30 was our highest time of day we had referrals. Wednesdays were hard days because that was days where I was in SST meetings and IEP meetings, and our teachers were pulled because we have lots of meetings, and so we have subs, and so how do we make that better? I'm not sure, but that's something we're trying to problem solve. But it was really exciting to see how we dropped. We went from October to November, but also November has, November there's not very many days of school compared to October. So, anyways, it was very calm at times, and it was really, really nice to see that and be able to walk through the hallways and just really see all the systems that have been put in place. So, all right. And as far as positive office referrals, we started out strong with positive office referrals because it was one of our sprint goals, and then we kind of petered out a little bit. So I would like to see this be, at least 5 kids per grade per teacher per month. So we have 12 teachers. So at least it would be nice to see like 60 positive office referrals a month would be a goal next year. But maybe that's a little high, as the 48 was our highest. But these are our positive office referrals, and kids love getting them, and families love to know their child got them. And I like to talk to kids about the great things they're doing than always talking about, why are you punching someone? So those are our positive office referrals for the year. And does anybody have any questions or comments? Sorry, it was really fast, but I'm trying to stay in that 10 minutes for you.
It'd be great. This is Navy, and just kudos to all the hard work that you did and the payoffs that are happening here. It's really, really exciting, and there's nothing like a calm day at school. It's a wonderful thing. So, so well done, and thank you very much for putting this together.
Yeah, well, I'd like to thank the team of Kara and Carly for all the past work they've done. Eastside there's been a lot of people involved with this and our teachers, obviously, but just the leadership that's been in the past has been important. And so thank you for their mentorship.
And know that our thoughts will be with you tomorrow when you go to your appointment.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Amelia.
All right. Have a good evening. I'm going to stay on, but I just have a good evening.
You too.
Those numbers you're asking about are the scaled scores. And so I get, they're hard to define, but it's taking multiple tests, like a third grade test and a fourth grade test. And even though they're not apples to apples, trying to put them on a scale that makes sense. So you can say a 1300 is a 1300, or how about I try this? A raw score of 30 on the fourth grade score, a 30 raw score on a fourth grade test. How does that compare to a 30 raw score on a second grade test? But I can't put the formula up there for you.
You know, it just sounds to me like we've got some work to do on, you know, understanding.
Yeah, Kara alluded to our work that we have to do with math as a district, and we have reading protocols in place. We have really good interventions. We have really good core tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 supports, there's a lot of positives with Savvas, but there's also a lot of areas that I think, there's a lot of areas of Savvas that we need to look at and come up with some protocols and also come up with some different ideas in terms of interventions and
Well, and just a language so that we can understand. I mean, I can commiserate with your frustration. It's one thing to see a line going up, yay, but if you don't know what anything really means, you know, it's you want to kind of have some structure to it. So maybe Savvas could, you know, help us out and explain it.
Sure. And
I was just going to say, and I like the idea about going from decoding to, because fluency is when you start to really be able to use what you know to learn more.
Right.
And I think it's the same thing with math. I have thought as a math person my whole life. Fluency in math is the single most important expectation for you to do better. And fluency is knowing your math, multiplication, addition, subtraction, division facts. If you know them, you can be fluent in it. If you don't know them, you will never be fluent enough to learn the next level. So I encourage parents, I encourage everybody, help your child be fluent in mathematic facts, and they will be much better off as time goes on. And if they aren't, they will never get there. I hate to tell that to people.
I have a NAEP testing article that talks about that.
Is that right?
The schools that have gone back to fluency are scoring higher on the NAEP
And they always will. You can't, if you have to struggle to figure out what 5 + 5 is, you're not going to be able to answer the questions in a timely manner. So you're never going to get there. So I just hope people, including parents, spend some more time. And that's an easy one to tell parents.
Well, especially if we can kind of decode the Savvas stuff.
Right.
You know, like.
Well, last but certainly not least.
Hello,
Principal
everyone.
Ainsworth.
When did you start referring to us as Principal Ainsworth, Principal Ed? That's a new one. I'm Mrs. Ed.
It's what's on
Okay,
the,
that's
it's
what I
what's
go
on
by
the, it's what's on the agenda.
At school, okay. Well, I could have had you guys start the time like 5 minutes ago, and then I would only have 5 minutes left, but, all right, well, I will try to kind of speed through this efficiently and then be able to answer some questions and have some exciting updates to share with you. So, thank you. We set some goals this year at Madison. Unfortunately, we didn't meet any of them, but also there were some really good things that came out of them. We had set a very, very high goal of 90% regular attenders, just kind of that expectation for the state. We reached 60% regular attenders. We had set the goal at the beginning of the year to have 70% of our students at or above benchmark in their composite score. As a school, we reached 56% and 70% at or above in Savvas on the end of year assessment, and we reached 62% there. Next slide, David, thank you. Oh, wow. The graphic doesn't actually show up, so.
It's on ours.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just speak to it. Just kind of digging into each grade level, 58% of our kindergartners were regular attenders, 60% of our first graders, 67% of our second graders. We had set that 90% goal. It put us at 62% for the year. And then last year we were at 67%. I kind of dug into our data suite and looked. 90% of our students attended 80% of the time or more. I really wanted to see, we were looking at our end of year benchmark data in both reading and math. We started looking at individual students who are chronically absent. And it was very interesting, as we'll see when we look at the kindergarten attendance data overlaid with kindergarten outcomes. It really doesn't align. But what we found was that many of our students are attending 80% or more of the time, which is positively impacting their growth outcomes. Awesome.
Hold on.
Can't see any of it. I might have to get my
There you go.
computer.
There
Okay,
it is.
thank you. Okay, so I went back and I wanted to look at where we were at when we first started in Dibbles into the 22-23 school year. So 24% of our students were at or above benchmark at the end of the year during that June of 2023. We are now at 56% at or above benchmark in their composite score. And then 70% of our students made average to above average growth throughout the school year. So over the course of the year, they made average to above average growth in reading. A couple of the measures that we really focused on from middle of year to end of year was decoding nonsense word fluency, words read correctly. And we had set the goal to get to 80% as a school in that measure. We didn't quite meet that goal, but I will give a shout out to our staff because that is the highest percentage of students at or above benchmark that we've seen at Madison ever. So that's really, really exciting. And then word reading fluency was another area that we were working on and saw some growth, but not enough growth yet. And so we had some really good conversations at the end of the year about ways we can adjust instruction for next school year. All right, kindergarten data, so exciting. We kind of started the year with kindergarten being our focus area. We cannot continue to start the school year in such a big hole in first grade. And so we had set the goal to get to 80% in kindergarten. Didn't quite make it, but again, our highest percentage of students at or above benchmark at the end of the year in kindergarten was 67% of our students there. We were really close to East Side. I had set the goal to beat East Side this year, and we did beat them in second grade, but we were really close in kindergarten. And so super proud of the work that our kindergarten teachers did along with our literacy TOSA and our intervention team to really make sure that instruction was dialed in. One of the things with the composite score in kindergarten is letter naming fluency is really heavily weighted. It's about 35% of their of the composite score at the end of the year. And so we're going to adjust some things with instruction next year so that we will have that measure be a little more proficient, have kids be more proficient in that. First grade, we saw a lot of growth, but definitely not where we need to be. We went from an upside down triangle to a square, 50% at or above 50%, still working on it. And then second grade, we, see the highest percentage of students being proficient or above grade level, yet didn't see a ton of growth. And so we have a plan for how we're going to adjust some instructional practices next year for that as well. All right, next slide. All right, end of year SAVIS data. So beginning of year up there at the top, we had 9% of our students at the beginning of the year as a school meeting in math. And at the end of the year, we're at like 61%, I think 61.2 or 61.1% of our students at or above. Next slide gives you kind of where we were last year at the end of the year. So in kindergarten, we had 41% meeting or exceeding. This year in our kindergartners, 75% meet or exceed. Last year, 42% in first grade. This year, 60%. And then in second grade, we had 35% meeting last year and 51%. So kind of what the other administrators have spoken to also is part of this is about the teachers learning the curriculum and learning what gaps it also has and just getting more familiar with it. So we saw a lot of positive growth, but still shooting for that 80% goal for students meeting or exceeding in math. Really quickly, you won't see you won't see the success maker slides. We made an effort to decrease the amount of screen time with our students. And while I think that the adaptive software can be really beneficial and it has a place, I don't think it is the thing. And what we saw in our classrooms throughout the data was that the adaptive software wasn't the thing that moved students or didn't move students. Does it have the ability to? Absolutely. We had a kindergarten teacher with 95% of her students meeting or exceeding. She did not use Success Maker. And so my takeaway was really good instruction is what moves kids, right? That could be through the use of an adaptive software for some students, and that can also be through high quality, in-person learning experiences. And so as a district, we have some work to do to kind of figure out what our approach is going to be in terms of using adaptive software. We definitely see kids making progress, and Eastside has some really strong data and makes a case for it. And also we have individual classrooms that have been doing some really great things with instruction as well. But we need more intervention kind of materials. That's one thing that Savvis doesn't offer us. Madison referral data, we had the strongest character strong implementation throughout the district this year. So we really focused on character strong implementation in that tier 1 instruction. And we saw that 87.4% of our students had 0 to 1 behavior referral. So really, when you think about that PBIS triangle, the majority of kids are really doing an amazing job and are doing the right thing. And then we have, about 12.6% of our kiddos who are in that yellow and red. And we feel like we have some systems that are dialed in to meet their needs as well. Okay. I just wanted to speak really quickly about the Tiger's Den. So we this year piloted a program where we used the Acellus online curriculum in our tier 3 intervention classroom for behavior and academics. And we saw 80% of those students make well above or above average growth. And so that was really, really exciting. These are kiddos who were not engaged in instruction in a traditional grade level classroom. They each had kind of an individual plan in Miss Jen's class, and we saw a lot of really positive outcomes for kiddos. And then we saw 68% reduction in disruptive learning, and specifically in room clears in grade level classrooms. So we saw that decrease, which was amazing and is exactly what we wanted to see happen. We want kids to get what they need so that they can learn not only the academic skills, but also the social emotional skills to help them thrive. All right. I don't know if I can go through Little Pirates in 30 seconds, but I'm going to try. Okay, so our goals.
You get extra time for the extra school.
So our goals for Little Pirates have, for the last few years, been focusing on social emotional learning and language. So just really being able to communicate their needs, problem solve, how much do they understand with language. The first few slides are just going to be talking about how did our Little Pirates do in kindergarten, and then we'll talk about our kiddos at Little Pirates. So 0 of our Little Pirates received behavior referrals this year. So that was really, really exciting. Go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so in Dibbles, I have it broken out by school. So Eastside's on the left, Madison's on the right. We saw 87% of our former Little Pirates make average to above average growth. We saw 81% of our Little Pirates in kindergarten this year at or above benchmark in phonemic awareness. 90% of our students were at or above in nonsense word fluency, words read correctly. So they're above what the grade level cohort is doing, which is really exciting, especially when you think about the target population for our Little Pirates is students experiencing disabilities, houselessness, and poverty. And then 72% of our Little Pirates were at benchmark in Dibbles composite score. All right, next up. For math, we had 79% of our students meet, 14% approaching, and 7% in kindergarten did not meet. And then this is just the 2 areas that I spoke about with our goals with social, emotional, and then language in our TS Gold checkpoint by dimensions. So these social, emotional, you can see like the darker blues are meeting expectations or exceeding expectations, and then also in language. So seeing a lot of, I did not include like begin the fall checkpoint or winter. This is just the spring. This is where they're leaving. But lots of amazing things happening, which kind of leads me, I don't know if I have another slide there, we did just formally receive notification that we will be receiving 36 additional preschool promise slots next year. So we are thrilled about that. We will be adding 2 additional classrooms. So we have lots of planning to do this summer, but are very, very excited about that, and also excited about the impact that Little Pirates is having within our K-2 schools. Questions?
How many total classrooms next year in Little Pirates?
There will be 6 preschool classrooms. Yep. So there will be 96 preschool promise slots, and then 18. Right. I think that's right. 54. Yeah. Yeah. I think.
You're passing the Sabbath.
I don't know. It's
right
really
now.
late. You guys are falling asleep.
Two
But
at
so
Madison.
six classrooms with 18 students. Yeah.
2 at Madison for the other place? Or?
We're still, nothing has like officially been decided, but
We're meeting on Wednesday.
We're meeting on Wednesday, and then working on staffing and the excitement. But yeah.
And are we coming along with playground?
I was just going to ask that question. Are we coming along with the playground?
We are coming along with the playground. Yeah. Loma met, I just almost said David met. David was out there. Loma met with the architects and for like footings, I think, for the play structure. But yeah, they are set to break ground August 1st. So, or the first, August 3rd, I guess it would be. So right when summer school starts.
Yeah.
So it's perfect timing. But we will make
Kind
it
of had to work on their time.
Yeah. So very excited about that. I should have put a picture of the, I'll send you guys an email of the picture of the new playground. It's super exciting. So, okay. The good news is when you go last, nobody asks you any questions. So,
Well, I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate the bar graphs for Dibbles, and I would love it if all the Dibbles could be in the bar graph format that she uses, and that she's got the number of students on there. For some of these school presentations, we didn't see numbers of students, which again makes it hard to sort out what we're talking about sometimes. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.
It was also great when the Success Maker charts, all the grade levels were on one chart. Really nice to see that.
So I think I finally understood it. I'm just stating it out loud for the group. So when we look at Savvis and Dibbles, these color-coded bar graphs we're looking at should actually look completely different because they have 2 different formulas.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea, the one should have a line and the other one should ideally would have a line, but is more likely to be straight across.
Correct. If you're looking at Dibbles, they start with where you should be at the beginning of the year and where you should be at the end of the year, kind of as their assessments. When you look at Savvis, they start you at where you should be at the end of the year and then test you on where you should be at the end of the year. So in theory, when you look at Savvis, you should see a lot of red and yellow to start the year. Obviously, we'd rather not, but if you're testing on end of the year standards at the beginning of the year, you're probably going to see more reds and yellows. And then at the end of the year, they test on the same standards, and that's why you see much more of a bigger spike. I also think you see much more summer learning loss with math than you do. Yeah, agree.
Well, I think some lexicon work around some of these assessments will help this board.
Yeah. And also keep in mind, we're going to be, while I see us in 2027 continuing to have Dibbles as a measure, we're going to be having interim assessments, and we will most likely not be using Savvis as the interim assessment in the data that you're going to be seeing because it's not going to be one of the state approved interim assessments. We have been told that STAR is going to be working with both Amplify and Savvis on aligning for their assessment, or helping to align with that assessment. But you're going to see different interim assessments in 2027. But we do plan to still do the DIBELS assessment because it does such a great job of prescribing and then helping with our interventions that we feel it's valuable to continue with the assessment.
I think Karen pointed out, and a lot of our principals pointed out, but it's great for us as a board to receive it, but the place I think where it makes the most impact is where teachers can receive from their administrator a report on whether their students are making that, it's month 3, have your students made 3 months worth of growth, and then interventions every 3 months until your students are making appropriate amount of growth over an appropriate amount of time.
Me?
I just also wanted to she mentioned the not using Chromebooks as much and why she didn't include Success Maker. And I think that was a really great point. And I love that you're allowing differentiation around that kind of thing, because for some it works and for some it doesn't.
Sure.
Following up on that, I really think if there's anything we should have learned from COVID, it is screen time does not make for education. It is interaction with an individual teacher in a classroom. And clearly we saw the decline because there wasn't that interaction with individual great teachers. And I think that's a good example of showing you that getting back to a classroom where you have a good teacher interacting with kids shows the greatest potential for growth, not putting them on a machine. So I appreciated that comment.
Any other questions or comments? Addie, you're muted. There you go.
Yep, I think we're at the end of our agenda. Unless there's anything else anyone would like to raise.
Kevin has a whole nother agenda. It's about a half an hour, 45 minutes.
That's what happens when I'm not there, huh? Okay, I do just want to, before we adjourn, remind people that some of you owe me some forms. If you could communicate with me offline about them, I would really appreciate it.
I must be really out of the loop because I don't know what we're talking about. So I'm
Superintendent evaluation.
Oh, then yes, I'm on the list.
Okay, so unless there's any more business to come before our body, I'm going to adjourn.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Addie.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Katie Banks sent it to me last year.